All right, sitting here with Mr. EJ Khaled himself. EJ's been with us about 5 months. Background before this, you were in the hospitality industry, right?
Hospitality, yeah.
And then your best month was last month. You issued 24,000. And how old are you, EJ?
21.
21. 21, 21. Cool. So wanted to have you on because you're one of our, like, I guess you can call it like rising stars. You're young, so no sales experience. Zero sales experience. And then I think it's super good perspective for, new agents just to hear, like, if a new agent is starting today, you're already 5 months ahead.
Yeah.
So first, let's touch on, like, what were the one or two challenges? Because you didn't just come out of the gate slinging 20 every month.
Right,
but what were the challenges early on? Maybe if there was one or two.
Probably hearing about the job, I was like, oh man, this is the dream. So, coming in every day, knowing that I can, average policies are usually around, 1,500 to, 500.
Yeah.
And, regular 9 to 5 is usually 700, 800 a week. So if you
Right.
can make that in a day, I was like, man, I can just sell one and leave. But, I didn't realize how hard it was.
Got it.
So when I first came in, I thought I can make a couple phone calls and, that turned ugly. So yeah, for the first couple months, I'd say like 2 months, 3 months.
So who told you about insurance? Was it your brother?
It was my brother. So yeah,
he kind of sold it wrong. He was like, dude, yeah, you can just come in.
He sold me the dream.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the dream, but yeah, we just have to work for it.
Correct. The right way would have been like, hey, dude, it sucks. You haven't made a bunch of phone calls.
Right.
But when you sell a deal, like, you'll get 99 no's just to get that one yes. And it might take you all day, but that one yes pays you really well.
Right. I remember on the IP report, he was showing me when he was doing his course.
Yeah.
He was like, dude, look at this, because he was on Gateway and he was looking at IP reports. Like, this is monthly. And I was like, dude, when I come in, I'll sling. I told him, he was like, oh no, you're not gonna beat me. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna sling.
Yeah.
But then I turned ugly. Really
and how much older is he than you?
5 years. 5 years and 1 day.
So you're the younger brother.
Yeah.
Okay. And 1 day. So you guys basically have the same birthday.
Yeah, he's on the 9th of November and I'm on the 10th.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the hardest part was, like, I guess, coming to the realization, like, hey, I need to work harder. So you started. Would you say that you were pretty lazy at the beginning?
Oh yeah.
Or just not giving it the respect?
Not giving. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was putting up the dials, but dials mean nothing when you're just clicking through.
So you're just kind of going through the motion, showing up. You didn't have a dialed schedule, right?
No, not at all.
Like, what time were you coming to the office?
One day I'd come at 8, like when the schedule, like the formula says, and one day I'd come at 10. So
got it.
It was just all over the place. Yeah.
Kind of floating. And is part of that because, like, you are so young, your bills aren't crazy high.
No.
So was it just like, hey, I don't need to do much to kind of feel like this is better than my 9 to 5? Is that the?
It just because I guess my back wasn't against the wall, so I didn't know, or I didn't have the urge to perform.
Yeah.
I was like, I can perform whenever I want.
Yeah.
But then that's just not the case with this job. You need to perform at all times to stay, at the top. And
right. And then what kind of switch? I know we've talked about it a little bit, but like, what kind of switched to make you start taking it seriously? Did you just get sick of it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was just, like the first 3 months, and I had a little bit savings, so I was like, it's part of the learning curve. And then I know there's a couple hires with me who were maybe like 1-2 weeks apart.
Yep.
And there was a specific one, his name's Seabass. He started only a couple of weeks before me, and I remember on my second month, coming into the office, and don't get me wrong, those first 2 months in the office were super, super helpful as well.
Yeah.
Not only was I making, $800, $900 a day, but also, I was listening to a lot of people, listening to their, training every day. I showed up to training almost every day.
Yep.
Maybe not the 8 a.m.
Sure.
But the 1 p.m. definitely. So I was getting a lot of value. But I remember Seabass, we showed up to the 1 p.m. training, and he was just like, yeah, guys, just want to shout out our new upcoming, underwriter, Seabass. And I'm like, dude, this guy started with me, and he made like 40. So 40 in 1 month.
That's when Chris brought him up, right?
Right. And it was like from 0. So I guess like 1 or 2 policies. Right. I just straight went to 40.
Right.
And I just had like really, really like hurt me because I'm really competitive.
Right.
So it just hurt me really bad. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I doing? Yeah. So I was like, okay. Right after I kind of pulled Chris aside and I was like, hey, like, what's going on with me? He's like, dude, I'm just going to be honest with you. He's like, you're just 21. You don't really want it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want it. He's like, no, you don't.
You're not showing that you want it.
Exactly. So it was like 1 or 2 things. You can either, get a little bit of help, go back to town to lead assist because, lead assist was still a thing.
Yeah.
Or was becoming a bigger thing, because I started with being a broker.
Right.
Or you can just quit, dude. Like, I'm not gonna like babysit you.
Yeah, either take like an ultimatum, like, dude, just take it seriously, or just go back to the hospitality.
And I only had a certain amount of capital, but that capital was saved for the 3 months of paying off my bills while I wasn't making money, was learning. So I didn't have capital to buy leads. And he was like, well, it looks like also that you don't have, you still have the bridges. You need to burn the bridges. He was like, just use that little bit of capital and put it on a lead order. It'll start like a train where you're going to work, because you just spent money that you have to earn back.
Right.
And that same day, I remember like calling up my bank on speaker, putting up my credit limit, and just putting that lead order in. And then from there, just kind of, next week, I did 10x the lead order.
Yeah.
So I put 1,000 in, I took 10,000 out. Yep. And I was like, wow,
it works.
It works.
Hey, real quick, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you've already gotten some value from this. Our company, Freedom Life Co., is hiring like crazy right now. We have way too many warm leads from clients that just want some insurance. So we're currently hiring for our in-office positions in Denver and virtually all across the nation to sell insurance over the phone. Now, for reference, our average agents take home just a little over $11,000 a month in take-home commissions. That's our average agents. Then our top reps, example, Wesley, he's 20 years old, no sales experience. He brings home 50 to 60 grand a month. And then our top managers like Chris, he came from phone sales. He makes 6 figures a month. So if you feel like you'd be a good fit, reach out to us. You can reach out to me directly or click the link somewhere in the description. My Instagram, you can just shoot me a DM, is Ty Jeffrey Cook. And real quick, before we get back to the content, this is not for everyone. Definitely don't reach out if you have an ego. Definitely don't reach out if you're not coachable. And certainly do not reach out if you're not willing to grind, especially during the first 90 days. 10, 12, 14 hours a day is going to be required to get through that learning curve. We'll see you on the other side.
Yeah.
So. And would you say, like, because obviously that's a lot of pressure.
Right.
Were you like sweating at night, like couldn't sleep, or was it like, dude, I made the decision, I'm rolling with it? Did it weigh on you at all, or no?
It weighed on me the first day.
Yeah.
Definitely at night I was thinking, I'm like, this is where I'm gonna make the switch. I remember just like, all right, I'm gonna wake up at this time, I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna be in the office. I'm like, I'm talking to nobody.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna lock in. And that's exactly what I did for a full week. I didn't talk to anybody. I kind of put myself in a corner, and then as just deals after deals after deals, and as soon as you make your first deal, it's kind of like the next deal becomes easier, and it's easier for the next deal, and you gradually get better. You start actually building up your sales pitch and stuff like that. That's when the actual learning curve becomes bigger and bigger as you get better.
Yeah.
So from there, it's been good.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting because I need to have Seabass on here, but I think Chris had a similar conversation to him with him because Seabass was kind of, he has a kid, and he was kind of not taking it seriously. He'd come in, he would sell when he was here, and then he would just like kind of work from home, right? We know that typically until you're good, working from home means like I just am not doing anything today.
And then there's just some people that working from home is the only option for them because they just can't perform. But for me, I have to be in a pressure where, not pressure, but the
environment. I think.
Exactly, the environment.
Same. Like my brain switch. Like when I'm at home, I am hanging out with my wife and daughter. Like I will, like if it's urgent and I need to do something on the laptop, I'll pull it out real quick, jump on the laptop, do whatever I need to. But like I'm home. Home is for relaxing. Home is for hanging out with family, friends, whatever.
And everything comes up. Hey, can you take out the trash? Can you go here? Can you do this? And it's like, you look at your look at your time. You just wasted 2 hours. You're supposed to call them. Now it's like,
And some of it's self-inflicted because like if I'm about to start working, I'm not dumb enough now to like think like, oh, I can work from home. I learned that early on. Like I can't. Like my whatever mental switch, and don't want to have like a limiting belief, but like I just know myself. I'm not going to work from home. Exactly. But like when you're working from home, and then someone's like, hey, can you take out the trash? You're like, actually, I was thinking of that, because you're like, okay, well that sounds better than dialing. So let me actually go do that. And then, while I'm at it, I'll actually mow the lawn for you. And this and this.
Like you're just like okay with an excuse. You're just like, oh, it's not actually because I don't want to work. It's because she told me to take out the trash.
You're justifying.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You're justifying, your loss.
It's just a lot more distraction. So no, but that's interesting that and Seabass is 20.
He is 20. Yeah.
Right. So Seabass, you guys started about the same time. I've always said that there's 3 things that every salesperson needs. And I learned this from Solar, but basically you need someone to chase, right? Which Seabass was that for you. Like he started with you, you're now chasing him.
Right.
Right. So someone to run after. Then you need like a running buddy, someone to run with, like someone
Major.
like Major. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So Major's the guy that, you know, you guys are kind of in friendly competition. He sells, you know, a lot, then you sell a lot. It's back and forth.
Right.
And then third, after you're, you know, proficient, you need someone to mentor.
Yeah.
Because when you mentor someone, as soon as you have a team, now you're accountable to that person. Like having a running buddy, you're accountable to them in some way. Yeah. But as soon as you are responsible for a new rep, now you take it even more seriously, which you haven't quite stepped into that yet. I know that's like on the horizon of building a team, but like you'll see yourself like step up to the plate, you know, even more. Like for context, my first year in home sales doing this, I was like 240, geared up for a like 400K Hall of Fame year the next year in home, and then we went virtual, so I had to relearn everything. It kind of kicked me in the teeth. Did another two, it was like 230 that year. And then when I started building the team last year, like huge, I sold 690.
Right.
And so like when you have people that are looking up to you and you're responsible for their success,
right. You got to validate your success.
You have to validate your success, but you also have to you got to carry the team. Like you got to lead the charge, right? Lead from the front. So, no, that's good. So, and that's part of like when we went all in on like the in-office culture, because in insurance, as you know, like everybody, you know, most of the, you know,
we spoke to Harold Arana, which obviously is like one of the most noble, like, you know, known
$1 million producer every year.
Yeah. And the thing is with him, it's a little bit different because he won't stop selling. You know, he's like, no, I love selling. I don't care. I'm going to build a team and sell.
Yeah.
You know, when other people are like, okay, I'm going to take time now because I can start building, right? Him is just like, no. And with him, he has no physical offices. That's what he told us. He's like, no, it's all virtual. So yeah, I was really into the office culture, like coming in and everything's set up the way it is. You know, it's like the bro office type of deal, right?
Yeah, I always tell when I'm interviewing people, it's like Wolf of Wall Street vibes minus like the illegal stuff.
Right.
Not as extreme as that,
for sure. Yeah,
but like similar vibes. Everybody's on the phones, music going. It's a good time. You don't. Like, do you really feel like you're coming to work?
No,
compared to a 9 to 5.
It's crazy. I love it. Like, you know, you can bring it. Like, I had my little brother the other day, and he's changed. He's seen me change from 0 to 100. Meaning, like, I completely. So when I first like started doing good in my first month, because I did like 14 and 17 and 24, you know, and then that,
like these last 3 months, once you started taking it seriously,
like everything has changed in my life. I just, you know, he'll come over to my house, and I'll be like, hey, I'm busy. I got this going on. I have to sleep. I can't play video games with you. You know, I gotta go to the gym in the morning after whatever. And he's like, well, like, you know, who are you?
You're growing up, dude.
Right, growing up. And I'm like, okay. So I brought him on, and you know, it's not like you can't bring nobody. You know, he can sit by me, learn so much, listen to me.
He's what, 16, 17?
He's 16.
16.
Yeah, and he's fascinated with this. He's like, I'm gonna meet Ty Cook, and I'm like, yeah, he's just a regular dude.
Yeah.
Or like Chris, because he got his, like, you know, he's growing a success. He's probably, you know, the next Jay Maska in our team. So he's like, oh my god, he has a Lambo.
Yeah,
you know, like, yeah.
It is pretty wild.
Super wild.
And like it's funny to me that exists, but then I look back when I was like early 20s, and that's when I got into door-to-door sales. Was like 20. I guess I was 21 technically. Same age as you. I wish that there was definitely guys to look up to, and I looked up to my managers and leaders. But like, it is cool now what we've built to have with the office. You're by the fire constantly, and you rub shoulders daily with the guys that are making, you know, not just 6 figures a year. We got plenty of those, but 6 figures a month.
It's crazy.
And I don't know of another, you know, I'm sure it's out there, but like I've heard from multiple guys that have come from solar and other industries, car sales, where it's like, dude, the fact that you get access to guys that are crushing at the highest level, and all you have to do is just show up, is really unique, you know?
Because the thing is as well, because I've always known I was going to be successful. Like whatever it was, I was like, why? I just don't know.
Why?
Because I'm a super hyper competitive person.
Okay. So when did that start? How old were you think?
Dude, it's been, you know, I grew up fighting. I grew up in the Middle East, and you know, there's nothing out there except
fight, like boxing, MMA.
So MMA, right? I started with wrestling and boxing, turned to MMA. I hurt my back, so I ended up like taking the break. But I've always had the competitive drive no matter what, and it was not with the person, because you need a running buddy. So I always had that, but it was also like I wanted, how do I say, like the glory, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, like screw the money, screw everything. I just wanted 2 people to recognize me, you know, like just like the olden days. So now everyone's
like the gladiators.
Literally. So now everything's about the money, but I've always wanted to be known as like the number one.
Yeah.
So then, I don't know. I was just like, every day looking at like things that would come up, like all the internet gurus, like this is the next best thing. This,
Right.
stocks,
Drop
meme
shipping,
coins,
Amazon,
exactly. So we did all
crypto,
that, but then in every single story, there's always that one thing that repeats itself, and it was just like everybody else kind of gets like the A players. They get that good office, and you're always like, I wonder like why I can't, get those connections, why I can't get that lucky.
Oh, I see. So
then when you come here, you start to realize, whoa, like there's nothing like this out here, right? There's like, we're like one of the only ones now,
right?
And super super cool to see, like finally in the story, like we get the A players, we get all the benefits. Like finally, it's my time.
It's my time. Yeah. Well, and no, that's interesting because when I was like 20 to 24, I was trying everything. So I was doing door to door solar sales. I then tried phone sales, inside sales. But I also tried like Amazon FBA, e-commerce, trading, forex trading, like all that stuff. And I've thought of that before, and I boiled it down to like, dude, as 18, 19, 20-year-olds, we're all, I'd say a majority of us are kind of like preconditioned through high school to like go to college, get a stable job, become a doctor, become a lawyer, like I was going to be an orthodontist because that was the safe, predictable, guaranteed route. And then you turn 18, you turn 20, you turn 21, 22, and then you're like, dude, this isn't for me. What else can I do? But then you're stuck because you're like, okay, well, all these guys online, and the internet has made it even crazier because now it is everywhere. It's accessible, but the typical route is like, hey, I'll teach you how to become a millionaire, but buy my $10,000 course.
Oh my goodness. And we've done that before too. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, hey, buy this $1,000 program, buy this. And it's like, dude, they probably made their money from that.
Yeah.
It's not actually like any skill.
Exactly.
Well, maybe it is a skill now because they're so good at marketing.
It is crazy because you buy that course and the first 10 videos are about mindset change. And you're like, wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Dang, I got screwed.
Oh my goodness.
Whereas this is like, dude, there's like no fluff.
Yeah.
We sell insurance. We teach people how to sell insurance. So anybody who comes in and has like the coachability and the work ethic, they can be great. Yeah. And I think like we're similar in the sense, I don't know if there's those different personality tests.
Right.
Have you ever heard of the Enneagram test?
No.
I took it like a couple years back, and there's these, and some of that stuff is like whatever, but I think there's some truth to like certain personalities thrive in sales, and there's 9 numbers, and the 9 numbers, if you take the test and then you're a 7. I talked to Trent. Trent is a 7, very free spirited, go with the flow, always wants to do something, and that's he takes off his Birks in the office and just roams.
He's like, grounded,
dude. Versus, so I am a 3, and a 3 is classified as an achiever. And
so I might take it after this.
You might, you should. But it's proven, to be true to me because over the years, like the money is good.
Right.
Money's good in sales. Like you need to make money to pay your bills. That definitely relieves a lot of pressure and stress in your life. Like I've been broke and I've had a little bit of money. Like I will choose having some money every time. Right. Like it's cool. And then when your bills are paid, it's like, what do you chase? And I found that I chase achievement. Right. And just being able to not only as maybe selfish as that might seem, that's what motivates me.
Oh,
is like I want to build something great, not to be able to like brag, but just to like prove to maybe myself or others that like, hey, I've been able to accomplish this great thing. And that's where I get the most fulfillment.
For sure.
Right. And then what's cooler is like the achievement at first was personal. Like it was first like, what's my personal achievements? Now it has shifted to where like, dude, I got a long way to go, but like I'm already a couple steps ahead of, a lot of people
your age.
So now what's cool is like seeing guys like you, 21 years old, no sales experience. Now what's cool to me is see you achieve stuff like proving to, I know we've talked about it. Like, you were really pushed to go a certain direction.
For sure. He's cool. Going to see this too. My dad's going to see this.
Yeah, no. And it's cool to see like, dude, you're whatever they call it, self-made. Like you are finding your own path and you're being successful.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest part to me now is like seeing other people, especially like the young 20, 21, 22, because like you guys don't have anything. Right?
For sure.
And I was there. Like you just want to make something out of yourself.
Exactly.
And I think that's the coolest part.
Yeah, the coolest part. Yeah, for sure. Like having that achievement and like honestly not to like brag, but to pass it down so somebody can repeat it, and then that's the most like I guess like enrichment to you. Like
totally,
dude. Like,
seeing someone else win.
Yeah.
Like when I got my first sale, I was pumped because it was 2 weeks. I didn't have a sale. I'm like stoked.
Yeah.
But now like what's makes me jazzed every day is like Trent just came in here. His new guy Josh just closed his first one.
I know.
That hypes me up.
Super sick.
Yeah. So that's like the best part. I think about this job
because you built it correctly.
Yeah.
Like,
But it's credit to like guys like you and guys like Josh. Like I'm nothing special. We just figured something out. But then a guy like you comes in, works really hard, and then 24,000 in a month. Like that's super, super cool to me.
Life-changing money for a 21-year-old.
And you're only 21.
21. I think about it all the time because I'm like super, like one, I want to achieve everything, but I get into my own head, like, late at night, and I'm like, dude, am I really like on track? And then I always forget about my age, and I'm like, wait, I'm 21. Wait, I have time.
Which I think that's a double-edged sword because I think it is good to have urgency. Because I've talked to people that are like, dude, why are you like, dude, you've made this much. Like, dude, you can take a couple days off of work.
I don't even like to talk to those people.
And it's like, dude, no, like there's no glory in just like taking it easy. Like I'm going, like this is what I'd love to do.
Glory is about having like, consistently going up and up and everything thrown at you and you just keep going.
Yep.
No matter what. You never stop. You never procrastinate. You never stay, what is the word I'm looking for? Stagnant. There you go.
Because you're either growing or dying.
Exactly.
Yep. There's no neutral. You're growing or dying. So no, that's good, dude. So we went on that long tangent, but that's really good perspective. Now, early on, literally just taking it seriously.
Yeah.
As far as like selling goes, what was one struggle that you had early on, like closing?
I didn't know how to sell. I just knew how to like hospitality. I'm super nice to people.
Yep.
And I can read body language very easily. And having somebody in front of you versus virtual is very hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean you just hung up on me? That's not possible. And then I'm just like looking at my phone and just like
disconnected.
On
ring it says disconnected.
Exactly. And then you're just like, you get people cuss in front of you. I'm like, wow, how's this, how are you supposed to do this?
Right.
So then other than that part, now you got to like, learn psychology. You got to learn body language through the phone.
Right.
You got to learn, how to please your customer and how to, guide them throughout the whole entire thing without being too salesy.
Yep.
Because you could be salesy in like, brick and mortar businesses like car businesses, like selling cars, anything like that, physical.
Right.
You could be as salesy as possible because they don't, they know it's your job.
There's added pressure. And, I've done face-to-face sales. There's still like pressure, but like you can get away with more because you are there face-to-face. They can see your eyes.
They don't want to disrespect you. They're still, but over the phone is just, just another voice. Bye. So that was really, really hard to overcome. And I'm like,
so how did you overcome that? So let's maybe, because that's a lot to unpack. Let's summarize it into something that someone can like look at and then, actually move forward. So would you say that it's just, maintaining control or closing, or what would you say?
Oh my goodness, that was the biggest struggle. Maintaining control.
Okay.
So what I did to kind of take over it, and I know I hated recording my calls because I sound stupid. I don't want to do this.
You didn't want to listen to yourself.
Yeah, and I kept making excuses. I was like, oh, I just didn't have my call recording on. Yeah. Like I had it all the time. I just didn't want to look at it.
Bro, it's a pun. Come on.
Yeah. So then, like one time, I was just like dissecting your calls that you have up, dissecting Wesley's nurse calls. And I'm like really, really dissecting it. And then I'm like, okay, why did he say this? And then why did she even respond? And why did he laugh? So what did that laugh do to her? Right. So then I'm like breaking it down. Now I come into the office and Nick is one of those type of people that, has a very, very good structure.
Yeah.
But is like aligns with my personality, is like very, very upfront and, is very nice over the phone.
Yep.
So he just comes off as a really nice guy, he guides so I'm like, okay, let me listen to him. and then he would break it down to me. So then I'm like, okay, listening. And then he, in trainings you would listen to this, trainings is the same thing because you need to get better at the same thing, right?
Correct.
So then
fundamentals.
So then you guys are talking about objections, and like there's a logic loop, there's an emotional loop, and there's smoke screens. I'm like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I'm never gonna succeed. But then I've always had like, no, dude, if you can do it, I can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. If somebody can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So then I really started dissecting like what smoke screens means, and then I really took a step back out of the picture.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, why is he trying to hang up? So, it's 99% of the time is price.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay. So then you start learning like logistically the human psychology, and I'm like, okay, now this makes sense. Okay, one step at a time. This. Why is our script say this at this moment? So I just started dissecting it on my own.
Yep.
And then really implementing my own dissects into our training.
Got it.
And then everything just clicked.
So you started essentially taking training more seriously, because training, it's like it's important to learn the word tracks and hear the top producers. We're big on like, if you're a top producer, like you get the right to train. And so hearing Wesley's one-liner about, closing objection number one, closing objection number two, hearing those one-liners, but the way that Wesley says it is very strategic, because it's not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. We can say the exact same thing, but my tonality makes you feel different than maybe what you said in this tonality, right? So what you did was, correct if I'm wrong, but you actually started applying yourself with the training where you'd hear us teach on a certain topic or word track, and then you're like, okay, well, why did he say that? And then you were really good about, and you still are, just asking really good questions. And I always use the example, like all of us as kids, I think most people, we wouldn't stop asking why. So like this morning, my 6-year-old daughter, she is like 6:30 a.m. So I get up usually like 5:30, and I tend to work on the couch. And then she gets up at like 6:30 before my wife is awake. And so she starts watching this like gymnastics YouTube, and she just starts trying to like flip, and she's being really loud. Yeah. And it's like 6:30, my wife's still sleeping. So I'm like, Monroe, you can't, like, now is not the time, like just chill. Like
she just woke up.
Yeah. She's like going, And I'm like, just relax, mom's sleeping. She's like, why? I'm like, because mom's sleeping. She's like, why? I'm like, because mom's sleeping. So if you're too loud, she's going to wake up, and then she might be upset.
Exactly.
And so she just kept asking why. And as kids, I remember my dad getting on me, like he'd be like, no, why? No, why? No, why?
Because I said so.
But like kids want, because I said so. Because kids want the answer. But we need to apply the same thing in sales. Like when we're learning, you have to ask why. And you have to understand, like, why does Ty make this joke every single time? Why does Ty joke about the skydiving or scuba diving question on the application? Well, because a person that's not maybe used to like learning how to train, they might just hear that and be like, okay, he's just reading the app. Whereas someone who is a little bit more bought in, you'd be like, okay, he asks that same question every single time. Why does he do it? Oh, it's because that question makes the client laugh, because his next question is something about the bank. And so their
guard is down.
Their guard is down, and now it makes it easier to get the bank. Oh, I see why he asked that. So it's just breaking down. So you would say that to become better at sales, you just got really good at like dissecting why people say what they say.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also got to realize, like, throughout the whole sales pitch, no matter where, there's existence of guard, right? So there's pressure.
Yep.
So there's pressure, releasing pressure, pressure, releasing pressure.
Yep.
And releasing pressure happens when you break the ice, right? You break the barrier. That's when jokes come in. That's when you gotta you gotta let the client know that you're a human being on the other end, so they can be like, oh, it's just another guy on the phone. Yeah. It's not like, oh, just a guy trying to sell me. It's like, dude, no. Yeah. I'm also a human being. I have feelings. I go through the exact same struggles as you go. So like, I love that, bringing up like the wife. I have a wife, so I'll be like, yeah, the wife, the wife's gonna kill me. And he's like, oh, my wife does the same thing.
Yeah, it's relating.
So when you guys come in, you can relate. And that's gonna bring the pressure down, right? You built it up because you're gonna talk about prices and product, and it's always like this,
right? Yeah.
And if you keep it at like this level, you're gonna get the close almost every single time.
Right. So you maintain the control at essentially neutral,
mm-hmm.
but when the client's falling off, you do something to bring them back up.
Always.
And then when their guard, when they're going up, their guard is going up.
Yeah.
You bring that guard back down.
Exactly.
So you're always trying to get your client to stay at baseline,
mm-hmm.
and baseline is comfortable, right? Everybody wants to just be, chilling on the couch, comfortable. That's baseline. So you do whatever you can to maintain that control and know that your client is going to have those resistance. So early on in selling insurance, and I guess a lot of my background, like door to door, taught me everything.
Right.
And in door to door, that like if there's 100 doors, 100 of them, I assume, are going to be mad that I'm knocking their door.
Right.
So like if I already know that they're going to be upset, what can I do to bring their guard down? And it's the same thing here. Like if you call and you call a lead 12 times in a day because they don't answer, right? And they're busy, they're at work or whatever. You call them 12 times a day. You got to assume that person is going to be somewhat irritated or upset.
Always.
And when you're prepared for that and they're not, because most of the time they're actually not upset, you were already prepared and you avoid the objection anyway. So it's easier to avoid rather than overcome an objection. So all those things that you're doing that you learned, it sounds like, you now learn like, okay, I have to put myself in the client's shoes, know what is going through their head, and then basically open them up.
Right. Yeah, that's the key to like put yourself in their shoes, and then if you were in their shoes, would you buy from yourself? Like, are you doing a good job?
Yeah.
Right. Because I'll be like, oh man, why did I even say that? Because if I said that to myself, I would just hang up the phone.
Yeah. So would you say that a majority of your training comes from self-reflection or like perspective from like other people like Nick? Like where would you say a majority of it came? Or was it like 50-50?
I think it's 50-50. Okay. 50-50, but also seeing somebody else that, aligns with my personality do the same, it definitely gave me a little bit more validation, and I'm like, okay, it's possible.
Yep.
Okay, now I understand. Okay. And then, talking to him on a daily, I'm like, why'd you say this? And he's like, okay, well, it's this way, dude. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I never thought about it that way. Okay, now that makes sense.
So it's having what's the word? It's having the awareness to self-reflect is step one.
For sure.
And then I like what you said, validate what you're self-reflecting on by another person who is qualified, right? Qualified meaning who is ahead of where you want to be.
Yeah.
Like go to that person, then you even threw in another variable of like, go to the person that's ahead of where you want to be, who is very similar to you.
Right.
So self-reflecting, find the person that's very similar to you and has the results, and then ask them why all the time.
Because if somebody's successful and then they just close like, super like, strong arm somebody and they're closing every time, I would never do that.
Right. Like you can't mimic Wesley.
No, I can't.
Right.
Well,
certain aspects of Wesley, but like, dude, Wesley is very well spoken when he closes. He comes across very professional.
Very professional.
Whereas you come across a little more jovial, like Nick. Like you guys are like joking with the client, and then you got Jesse, who's just very chill, relaxed, right? And so you got to find the person, and you could take things from everybody, but you got to find the person that you most resemble, and then just mimic their process.
For sure.
So that's good, dude. So that was what you struggle with most. Now, I guess for new agents coming in, as we kind of wrap this up, as for new agents coming in, what's your, I guess, one or two pieces of advice that you have for them?
I've been waiting for this moment. I remember starting as a new agent, and it was really hard hearing feedback from somebody, being coachable, but not being coachable in the sense of like, I can implement this in my next training. So like when we do like the circle, I can, sit and implement that training. He's like, okay, you did good. But actually implementing in the call, because I remember this vividly, just calling somebody like a client and then be like, oh, this client's different. And I don't want to like I'll use that training for a different client. I don't want to ruin it for this client.
Oh,
my goodness. It was just like so many when you're just thinking that the client's different, but you just got to think about majority. Like you just say it's okay. Like,
so you would, just to clarify, you would change your process based on who you're talking to.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And I would never, I would try to stay away from the feedback I would get and be like, oh, just say this. I'm like, no, this guy's different. This guy's different. No, just say it, dude. Just say it's going to work. And then that guy ends up hanging up on you like, why didn't I say it then? Like, and it takes you a while to get another guy on the phone. And then, all your momentum's kind of lost. You got to reset and then bouncing back. And then you're just like triple thinking to yourself. I'm like, why didn't I just say, and then you go into the same training. So like as a new agent, that killed me. And I was like, dude, all right, enough. Everyone's the same.
Yep.
I'm not going to treat anybody different. I'm not going to get sad. I'm not going to get too excited. I'm going to do what I'm taught to do, and it's going to work. And then exactly that. Like you just say, and you're like, wow.
You're like, it worked.
And I just mute myself, and like I struggle with that so much. I'd mute myself like, And then like my hands would sweat. And I'm like, okay, here we go, next part. Say it would go. I'm like, oh my god, it's working. Yeah, that first self close was unbelievable feeling.
Dude, that's really good advice. Like, don't. I used to make the same mistake early on. Is I would change my process based on who I'm talking to, and
because you're just like, this guy's different.
Yeah,
I swear.
You got to follow the same process. And again, like we talked about, here's baseline. You got to reel clients in. Some clients try to take you way off.
Yeah.
Or they come in super aggressive. You got to still bring it back to baseline.
Yep.
And then continue your process.
Yeah.
So that's great advice.
That'd be my only advice. And
advice. And then I'm curious, what, last question, and then we'll wrap it. What's next for, like, what are some of your goals? Like, let's say over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, what's next for Mr. EJ?
So Mr. EJ definitely gonna hit. My always goal is just like, can I just break the 100,000 like in a year? Yeah. It's always one of those goals. Like, it's a super small goal, but I would just like, I'm on track. Totally on track. Like,
which is crazy because this is year one.
Year one, no sales experience. So then just want to break that 100K, but I also really want to do 40-40 back to back, and then start, because I hate starting my team when I haven't validated my own success. When I'm like validating your success.
Sure.
So I'd bring somebody on and be like, dude, I'm doing good right now, but he's done it before, instead of being like, dude, I've done it before, you can do it as well.
Yeah.
So like my goal is to just by July, so this month and next month, I want to hit back-to-back 40, which is super possible. So I've implemented, a lot more lead spend and dialers and stuff like that in order to, essentially do that.
Yeah.
And from there, I just want to go really, really like crazy social media presence and building my own brand, because I've always wanted to have. I always looked up to athletes, and I'm like, dude, that guy has his own shirt with his own name. Like, these, I hate like big designs, but it'll be like, just like last name and middle initial, whatever. And I'm like, dude, I want to have that.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, but you want also validate your success and build your brand. So that's my goal, is to always like, validate my success, be successful. And at the end of the day, the biggest goal is, to hit Hall of Fame, but also to start your own agency and start your own company and stuff, and to see other people's success, like you have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to have that feeling.
Well, and it's cool that, because the world, there's a lot of fake influencers, mentors that actually haven't done anything. Right. But I like what you said. You want to actually do something first.
Right.
Sell 40K back to back, which in life insurance is like top 1%. Right. Most people don't do that. So you want to do that, then start to basically show guys the way. And my guess is, since you're 21, would you say like your goal is to kind of, I guess, teach other 20, 21-year-old kids? I mean, you mentioned your cousin who's 16, like, or your brother, cousin.
He's my cousin.
Yeah, but closest brothers.
Brothers, yeah.
Is to kind of like show the guys that are just getting out of high school. And
for sure.
Maybe they don't want to take the traditional route. You can show them another path. Like, hey, if you do
possible.
X, Y, and Z, this is what I did, which is super important. This is what I did. Follow me.
Always.
You can't be just like, hey, follow me. Like,
and you come here and
you
you're
like,
do
something first.
Exactly.
Yep. So
you got to be the guy. So
be the guy.
I always want to be the guy. Not money, nothing. I just want to be the guy. So
you're the guy, dude. Cool. Well, EJ, appreciate you jumping on.
Of course.
It's going to help a lot of pleasure. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you got some value. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we are actively hiring for sales agents. We have way too many warm leads, and so we need help calling the leads and selling policies. It's something you can do in office in Denver or virtually just from home. So our average agents, they make just a little over $11,000 a month in commissions. Our top reps, they make between 50 to 70 grand a month. And our top managers who run sales teams, they make 6 figures a month. So if you feel like you're a good fit, meaning no ego, very coachable, willing to work hard, 10, 12, 14-hour days, reach out to us. You can either click the link somewhere in the description or just reach out to me directly at my Instagram, Ty Jeffrey Cook.